staying with us on TMI this Thursday. I'm joined by two guests on the program. First, just to my immediate left, I have someone who we can say has been there, done that, one-time commissioner for education in Edo State, and of course, a legal practitioner as well. Washington Osifo, thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, viewers.
And next to him is, well, his learned colleague, public affairs commentator, as well a legal practitioner, Patrick Awosage. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And hello, viewers at home.
We'll try not to explore your legal aspects. Let's just leave it at where it should be. But I want to begin with you, sir, because basically you've seen the inside of how education works. At the point you had the responsibility for providing leadership for that critical sector in the state. When you look back today, what are those elements, those experiences that resonate with you and make you wish you could do more to improve on the way education is in this country?
Well, first I want to appreciate the governor. I follow his initiative with regards to the Ministry of Education, how to change the face of education, as it were. That's exactly what governance is all about. It's a going concern. At every point when new leadership comes on board, the responsibility that is immediately saddled on the shoulders of the leadership is to ensure that they surpass the record set by previous administration. That is how a society is rated as growing or not growing. For me, my contribution to the Ministry of Education before I came on board in 2013, I have watched with keen interest. I'm sure very many persons are also watching now who are not in government yet, because someday, somehow, they will also come on board. My interest was that, yes, there was this colossal investment by the previous administration under Comrade Governor. Of course, you know it better than I do, the Red Roof Revolution and all of that. But my interest, looking at it from the outside, before I was brought on board as commissioner, was that whereas there was huge spending in that sector, but there was no correlation between the spending and the result that was coming out from it in terms of the results we were getting and the impartation of knowledge on our children. So I think when I came on board, my immediate responsibility was to see how I can add value, to see that there is a correlation between spending and results. And thank God, 2 years, a year down the line after we came on board, we were able to change the narratives from a Edo who was lagging behind in national results, oscillating between 25th and 27th and all of that. In the national result, we came third for the first time, and from there we had accolades, awards all over the nation and all of that. And we moved it all from there to second. I left it at second and all of that. So, but I think the law is not the problem. The reason why I try to say this is that there will always be law, and there will continue to be law. But I think the problem is implementation.
Right.
Monitoring is a key element that you cannot ignore. If you ignore it in the education sector, then you are doing a great disservice to the people. So what we did was that we were very good in monitoring. But again, what you must not also do, there is no system that is perfect.
Right.
A good administrator must necessarily learn, as a leader, you must necessarily learn that human beings, we have these weaknesses all around us. Therefore, even in the midst of our weaknesses, there are strengths. When they do wrong, you start from their position of strength. You encourage them, don't talk down on them. By the time they know that you appreciate the little they are contributing, I bet you they will take it up as a challenge. Let them know that they can do better. And that was exactly what we did. Without adding more teachers, without doing extraordinarily anything in terms of adding more investment, we were able to manage with the personnel that we have, like great teachers, great directors of the ministry, permanent secretaries, who is now, my then permanent secretary, who is now the head of service and all of that. We worked together and we were able to change the narratives. But what we did differently was massive monitoring and encouraging the teachers and as well as the students that you have a role to play. When we work together like a football team, we can produce this goal. And my gratitude goes to them that we were able to produce the goal. But I'm also watching what is happening now. And what I particularly like is the technicalities that are bringing into education. But we will not achieve the good intention of government or the good intention of the governor if proper monitoring is not there. We want to see our children in school and in their classes as at when due. We want to see those culture of reading brought to school and instill discipline in learning, and both in the teachers and those that are also learning. We want to see that. We want to see that you don't just go to school only. The reason for you going to school is to pass exams. We want to see that you imbibe the culture of reading in you, and also understanding the meaning, and eventually how it will play out in your understanding of what you went through in your block of classrooms, how it will play out when you eventually come into the society. It's education. You know, the school is not just a place where you teach, where you learn how to read and write, no, and study to pass exams. It's a place where you build leaders. This culture of leadership must necessarily be not foisted on them, but must be something they grow through and all of that. If a child knows that I am in this school not just to learn how to read and write, but to someday know that I am the leader of tomorrow, and those who you know today as leaders, governors, presidents, commissioners, ministers, they started from this way. And this crop of leaders will go someday, and you will necessarily fill that vacant seat. Nobody will hold it forever. Whether you like it or not, it's either you bow to age or you bow to biological callings and all of that. Life will come and life will go, and necessarily, because nature does not nature abhors vacuum, necessarily these students will come and feel it. So the earlier we catch them young, teach them morals, teach them values, and teach them that life is not always about going to school and graduating or coming out tops and whatever, that there are more to education than what you see.
I'm going to take you up on the issues of inspection and monitoring in a moment, but let me come to Patrick. Let's talk about arguments in the court as well. Some people say that the value of education in Nigeria has continually sagged. Do you share that sentiment at all?
Thank you very much. I share it to a large extent. Every coin has a two sides.
Right.
So there's always a two sides to a coin. It's not only looking at it from one angle, but looking at it critically from the perspective of those that said or that have assessed education in our country has dropped over time. They are right in the sense that if you look at not just the performance in the classroom, I have come to understand that people don't just have faith in education, so to speak, anymore, because of how society rates them. So those are at school, so to speak. Now, those days, you see people going to school. I remember when we were kids, that somebody's passed his exam. It's like he has won some big lottery and everybody talk about him. He's taken everywhere. He's allowed, he's even he's suspended from work at home. They allow him, relax, you have read so much and you've passed your exam. And whatever he wants, he's given, uncle shower him with gifts and all of that. And he see himself as on top of the world. That want him to, I remember I came sixth at some point in time. My elder brother had said, anybody that will come between first and fifth, I'm going to do this. And incidentally, I came sixth. I felt I am out of the world. I felt so bad and I felt depressed because I didn't get what I was supposed to. That was how it was. But today, it's a different ball game. Now, you have all the degrees somebody is talking about, where will you work? Imagine you are in the university, you are reading for exams, and the lecturer is saying, well, we have not been paid, and we are unable to even pay school fees to our kids, and things are not working. You now ask yourself, your father who works in the ministry, for instance, he had gone through school, he encouraged you to read, and he had read all he needed to read, and he's a don, he's well cerebral, everybody celebrates his genius and being a genius rather, and they celebrate his acumen, but it seems as if things are not working. So people begin to think away from, don't let me waste all my time, like Alibaba, the great
comedian.
Not comedian, okay. the Alibaba shops and that Chinese that does this online sales and all whatnot. He said he actually told his son, just hang around in the classroom, don't strive to be the best, just hang around at the middle and put your mind in some other thing, in as much as that is good. But I want to say that it's actually not so good too. It has a two-way thing too, because if you look at, if I'm to study medicine, I'm to give it my attention. If I'm to be a good lawyer, I'm supposed to study very well, not thinking of other things. But society have made it so, because nobody regards all those stuff anymore. It's what you have, you are bringing to the table that one applaud.
Does that in any way have anything to do with our short-term thinking?
Yes, short-term thinking, no, not necessarily short-term thinking. Well, if you want to say, but the point I'm trying to make is this, that if we, though, yes, you are talking of short-term thinking, yes, because everybody talk of the now. We want it now.
So nobody's projecting for the next 10, 20 years, for
Nobody
example.
is talking about that. Even our government, I'm sorry, with all respect to government, I don't think everybody is talking about the next election. You know, we are talking about after 4 years we are out of office, we might be voted in or not voted in. I think that had become a major issue. Every governor or every government that come on board want to do something now that people will see so as to vote me, not to start up what will be a revolution in the near future. You know, and look at the funding of education. You look at it now. How are these schools being funded? In as much as we talk about the Red Roof Revolution, which was beautiful, now look at the teachers. How are they being trained? And what is really obtainable, and we talk about the monitoring and all of that. What machineries have we put in place? I believe leadership is by inspiration.
Right.
If you inspire the people, I remember my teacher, I told a woman yesterday, I said, you look like my secondary school teacher. And she said, why do you say so? I said, I remember Mrs. Lawrence, she was an amazing woman. I celebrate that woman anytime, any day. She taught us economics. She won't come to class with any textbook. So she wants you to know what she's talking about. She come out of herself and push it into you. So you fall in love with her subject because of the way she inspired us. But there were some other teachers that we didn't like the French teachers that would just come and tell you bonjour, bonjour, bonjour around and nobody wants to listen. So what I'm trying to say is that there must be some point at which if the teachers are not inspired, they are not remunerated properly, they are not seen as first among equal, unlike the other way around that, you know, if I don't have anything to do, make I just kukuma go they teach, you know, that kind of
So
stuff.
it's like last resort.
Last resort for somebody who is frustrated. I don't think it should be so. Teaching should be beefed up, and I want to commend this present administration. I'm seeing some light in that direction. That is no longer business as usual. That, you know, like thinking that maybe if I'm a teacher and one dropout, no, I'm somebody who have nothing to do. I think I want to commend the government, Obaseki's government. I think I can see some way of light in that direction, and I'm very hopeful that in a short time. So in the long-term assessments, or rather the education is dropping, these are the factors. Not that the people are not intelligent. Because why do we have our folks live in Nigeria and they perform exceptionally well? And you don't have the amenities, you don't have science laboratory, and you want me to be a good scientist. You don't have all the necessary things, and no science teachers in some schools, and no good teachers. And they just say, just go on. Okay, at the end of the day, examination malpractice become the order of the day. Because when parents, it starts not just from the government, now parents now. You have a child, you know this child, you want the child to become a responsible leader tomorrow. Like my learned senior had said now. But the point is this. If a father now take money from his meager resources to go and bribe or buy away, you know, what's that? What kind of, because I want my son to be in the university.
That's already a clear case of compromise.
Yes, that's it. So, and you say you want your son to be the leader tomorrow. What kind of leader? Abraham Lincoln wrote a letter to his school son, to his teacher's son. He said, don't help my son. When my child fail, tell it to him and give him this result. Let him know he has failed. Let him learn from his failure. Right. So we should always imbibe this attitude. Other than my son, you know, people are proud about my children in the university. They are graduates and so on.
It is not so much about how your children got into the university,
yes,
as it is about the fact that they are there now.
Yes. So these are the things. Government cannot come home to your house now and say, well, don't bribe and get your kids to school. Government will provide the basic amenities, but those amenities, however, how are we now utilizing it if we don't study? Imagine somebody say, well, I don't have opportunity of schooling. We say, okay, go on. And then you have been enrolled now. What are you doing? You are watching Channel O. You are watching Wizkid. You are watching. You are not taking our time to study. Then how do you expect to become a successful candidate at the end of the day? And tomorrow you now say some witches are after you. That's how we interpret it, or something happened, the system is bad. We can make things work. We must start with ourselves.
Let me come back to Washington now. When you hear people who schooled in this country in the 60s, 70s, maybe up to, say, mid-80s, talk about what education was like for them in this country, you realize that there's a clear-cut difference between where we had been and where we are today. At what point did we delink, as it were?
Well, I think it's purely, in my view, crisis of identity. Yes, modernization is coming, but the essence of modernization is being lost. when you put it stricto sensus, given the case of Nigeria, when you start wishing for the past, even as of today, it creates an impression that there's a looming crisis,
Okay.
willing to, ready to consume all of us, even in the near future. Otherwise, why should you wish for the past? Glaringly, it speaks to all of us that the present is very bad. But I think the question I ask myself, is it incurably bad? No, it is bad, yes, but it's not incurably bad. But what must we do to remedy it? Every day, we were not part of that past. But our parents told us how beautiful. We read about it. We dream of it as it is today. But can we have it given what we see today? No. I think what is responsible for that is everyone wants to get to the top using the back door. And the simple definition of who a thief is that person who comes into the room not using the regular entrance, which is the door. If you jump in through the window when the door is there, you could have used the door, then you are an uninvited guest. Nature itself sees things and has given us the blueprint that things must be done normally. To do otherwise would mean that to stand on the head of nature. And morality is an issue today. Everybody wants to make it anyhow. The parents, like my brother rightly said, they are not helping issues. Very many parents are not helping issues. You want your son or your children, it's good. You wish them well. You want them to be like your neighbor's son and daughters. But you are not willing to make the sacrifice that the parents of your children, of your neighbor, also had for their children. And when you see things that are not within your own means and also not within the means of your children, like the way we were brought up, nobody will scold you for bringing home things that are not yours, what you cannot afford. They celebrate those things that their children cannot afford, and others are watching. So there's this moral decadence. And I tell you, the children are victims of poor parental upbringing. Because it is the responsibility of the parents to bring up the children in ways and manners that they will be pride to not just the family but also the nation.
So we can't defer that responsibility to the teachers at school.
You see, we are all involved. We are all involved. I hate to put this blame on the doorstep of one person. Talking about the government, talking about parents, talking about the teachers, talking about all of us. You see, anyone who wants to solve a problem must necessarily not cast aspersion on any particular. The first thing you do as a leader is to take responsibility. The moment you start taking responsibility that you are one of the causes of this trouble or these problems, when you speak to others, haven't taken the blame yourself, people will not listen to you. Those who will not share blames with others are not good leaders. Therefore, government, they have the key responsibility to lead a nation or a state in a direction that that state must follow. If you are standing well as a leader, necessarily your followers will stand well. Now, in standing well as a leader, it does not just automatically get your followers to follow you. No. It takes more than that. Sometimes, you must also use the instrument of coercion. You must also use the instrument of coercion. Now, you know why they will not just follow you immediately? Because they are used to doing it the wrong way and getting results anyway. Now, morality is an issue in this country. And we must start addressing it. If education, we must get it right in schools. Of course, we have to change our morals, the way we think. Now, I don't know. God is not a magician. Yes, he does miracles, yes. But he's not a magician. He is an orderly God. He wants us to do things orderly in a way that the generations that are also watching us will necessarily follow suit. And the Bible says, train a child the way he should grow, so that when he grows up, he will not depart from it. Therefore, if you train a child to be a criminal, to know that when you take things that doesn't belong to you, you are celebrated. That child necessarily, when he goes into the classroom and he goes through it and he gets to leadership position as a governor or as president, why do you think he will not be corrupt? Because he was brought up by his parents to be corrupt. And that is why I told you that the children are casualties.
Of all of this dysfunction.
Yes, they need help of there is dysfunction, dysfunctionality, huge one in this nation. And it stares at us glaringly. And you see, when we fear for ourselves, it is not much of fear. Who we should fear for is a generation after us. And I see things every day and I ask myself, are we going to be able to deal with these issues, or we just sleep and wake up and continue to wish? You see, in the administration, unfortunately, our constitution is crafted in a way that looks at it that you are given a periodic term. Yes, so that, I'm sure in the mindset of those who crafted the constitution, so that one person or one enclave does not dominate governance. But the truth is that these 4 years or 8 years, as it were, that creates a break at the end of it is an advantage, and also is also a disadvantage. Everything you do within the limits of 4 years that you have sometimes can, before you, be rubbished when you are no longer there. You are watching, they are rubbishing it. You see, every day I try to draw the attention of people to a stanza, a particular stanza in our national anthem. May the heroes of our labors of our heroes past not be in vain. Now, I ask myself, for instance, living or dead, when they are heroes, when they watch what is happening, you talking about the past. For those of them who are still alive, who wrote books that we are reading today, who are watching this generation the way they do things, what do you think? It breaks the heart. It kills them slowly.
For a country that churns out hundreds of thousands of graduates every other year, and then of course the jobs are not there for them to take, whether it's public sector or private sector, what are the implications?
That was why I told you that to cast blame on the doorsteps of anybody, that would be a huge disservice to.
So who takes responsibility for
the leadership? The leadership at government circle. You see, if a system must work, I tell you, those who are leaders must necessarily bring themselves and do what they are supposed to do on the basis of constitutionality, law, and even the social contract that you enter into the people. Now the education system, no country can do better than the level of its education. That's right. The truth. And anything that will encourage people to read and read well in classrooms will be that there are set goals that they want to achieve when they leave school. Of course, it demoralizes you. It discourages you to read when you find out that those who graduated before you, who did very well, excellently well when they were in class, who focused on their studies, and even in character and in learning, they have been certified. Coming out, they come to a society. Today, when you see them, is a sorry tale, sorry narrative. It will not encourage you because you look at yourself that you are walking on the line of failure. But while I'm also saying this, I must also tell people, those who are in school, that you don't go to school to study because the jobs are there. You go to school to study so that you can empower yourself because you don't know when the jobs will come. Otherwise, you have to put yourself in a position, if I don't go at all, and according to the Bible, prepare thyself so that you will not be found wanting. If the studies are not there, you are not equipped for the future. When that future comes and the opportunities are there, you have yourself to blame.
Are we futuristic in the way we plan our education in this?
Well, it may seem that we are not futuristic, but the truth is that we are futuristic.
In what ways?
That was why I told you. That was why I told you that implementation. The law is not the problem. The law as it is today is beautiful. But the implementation, the human nature, the human contribution, how the human being interprets and implement the law, that's the problem that we have. You know, we must continue now. Today, the best time to do it would have been yesterday, but the second best time is now. To do things in a way that we encourage the people to give in their best in whatever they do, whether in education, whether as students or as teachers, they have to be encouraged. Whether they work as civil servants, they have to be encouraged. Whether they work as farmers, they have to be encouraged. In the little job you do, even as a sole mender, shoe mender, tailoring and all of that, you have to be encouraged. If you now know that a society will not move except we continue to respect each other, irrespective of your contribution, whether micro or macro, we will not move forward.
Let me come to Patrick quickly. We live in a country where you have a divide. On the one hand, we're told that some persons are not employed because the jobs are not there for them to take even upon graduation. And then on the other, you have those who are said to be unemployable. Does that bother you?
Absolutely. Honestly, what's the essence of education? When you talk about, it's for you to, the Bible said, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your mind have been renewed. You have received some instruction that have made you a better you, a better person. That's what education should do for you as a person. Now, it's obvious now that so many persons cannot even pass interviews. It will shock you. Now, and this also
Even as college graduates?
Yes. This will shock you, and this constitutes of a larger chunk of the soul called we are looking for job. You understand? So now when you look at it from that angle, you can't be blaming government. Neither you blame yourself. You know what you did. I remember a story years back. I started from the Polytechnic, and there was a situation of a young lady whose daddy had his time at the NNPC working there, very influential man. The daughter was in school because the dad had money, and she went through. But she was not attending to class. And that's accounting, for goodness sake. How will you cope? But she bought her way through. And eventually, she couldn't cope at work. Now, daddy is influential. He had given you the job. You can't work. Then I had to call the dad's attention. Your daughter is not performing. You now call the daughter. What happened? He said, actually, I was really not attending classes like that. Instead of the dad to say, send her out, well, he said, no. Okay, just put her in the stores where they will just keep records. And then they took her there. Now, that happened to somebody who is influential.
Right.
You know, she has friends too, of those that are not influential too, and people, and so many groups like that constitute, we don't have jobs today. Now, where she was supposed to occupy, she couldn't function, so they had to leave her out of it. So if you look at it from that angle, we are deficient in that. We have a lot of people not really serious. Let me just go to class. I remember in the university, I must tell you, somebody was asking her friend, what's my matriculation number? I'm not joking. When I said it some time ago, they said it, I was just talking. I saw it, they didn't tell me. The person was asking her friend, tell me my math number. In the example, tell me I want to write my math number. Then I wonder what she was going to write.
You just talked about people buying their way through in the education sector, for example. Is that a reflection of a systemic weakness?
Yes, it is. It is. Now, we have said, we are arguing from two ways now.
Right.
We must understand. The people have that blame. You that have gone through school, wasted your school fees, you didn't read, you didn't spend your time to read, you didn't exhaust the books you were supposed to, you just went to classes and bought your way through, and now you are shouting on the streets. Now again, in all those things they have taught you, ideas should come. Because you should think of what to do.
Does our system, in any case, encourage students to be studious, as it stands right now?
The system
itself, yes. The way our system is structured, does it encourage people to study?
No, we will not. In as much as, see, we say,
I can't remember the last time I saw a functional library anywhere around town, for instance.
I agree. We have internet, sir. When we talk about functional library, how many people? I didn't even read in the library. We have internet. We have. We don't go. I don't even enjoy reading in the library. I go there to do some work and get. But what I'm trying to say.
But you are one case in millions.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, I'm not trying to justify the system.
But by standard, schools should have libraries.
Yeah, there should be. There should be. Yes, we still have some kind of library, even if you want to say we don't.
Even if most of them are not updated.
Yes. Now, the ones we have we utilized it? How many people do you see in the Edo State Library? Go there and see what is happening there. So let's be very factual. If we want to look at the system not functional, I agree with you. But these little functions they have brought to bear, who have utilized it?
I'm going to take you up on something.
No, I was trying to establish something because we were looking at it from that angle. Now look at, from the way it stands, this constitutes a large number of persons. In as much as I know there are genuine cases.
Okay.
There are genuine cases.
Of those who are not employable.
Of those that are not, of those that are not employable, and those that could have been employed but they don't have the jobs. Now, if those alone were available, I think the system would have been able to absorb them.
Okay.
Because if genuinely you are doing well, I don't know, look at what Sarah Kindison had said, that automatic executive or the automatic employment by Bayelsa State
right.
for any first class, that's wow. then I have to study hard to be a first-class graduate and get employed.
And then you have to come from Bayelsa State, of course.
Yes, that's for his state. He didn't do it for Edo State. Edo State is also doing its own. So this is basically what I'm trying to say. And all other states in Nigeria and the federal government definitely. Now, we have all of these things put in place. The major, it's just like the wheat and the shaft. You don't know who is really not employed. Because if we are talking about the vast majority, we say we are all unemployed. Then, and we can go on the street, we say we are unemployed. The truth is this. How many persons can we really employ?
You see, every time we have this kind of conversation,
yes,
after we've looked at all of the elements, just like Washington
yes.
had done a while ago, it will appear most people will still situate it with the government. I'll
Yes,
give you a
right.
reason. Just 9 days ago, last week Tuesday precisely, the Honorable Minister for Labor,
okay,
Chris Ngige, was speaking in Abuja, and he said that there's something wrong fundamentally with our educational system. Okay. Because he believes that the way we do education here, as it were, is not geared towards creating jobs.
okay.
On the basis of that, he says any form of education that cannot guarantee creation of jobs or employment is useless. So isn't that enough reason we should take a second look, perhaps a much closer look at what education has been like in this country in the last, say, 20, 30 years, for example?
Thank you very much. You see, I agree with what he has said to an extent. Mm-hmm. Now, if you say, well, our education is not creating, what's Benin Technical for?
How functional is Benin Technical College and all of the technical colleges scattered across this country?
Yes, I'm just giving an instance. Mm-hmm. When I was in secondary school, we worked in our introductory technology workshop.
Right.
We were taught, I could fix some stuff with my hands. I could do it because I learned it in school, in Immaculate Conceptions College. We learned how to weave as secondary school students. So it's part of what we're doing. So if we're saying it's useless and all of that, then these things should be, they are all there, like my Leonard Senior has said. They are all there. Are we taking it up, home economics and all whatnot? Are we really implementing them other than concentrating on some few subjects? I think it's where we began to rate some courses above the other. Everybody wants to be a doctor, everybody wants to be a lawyer, some person wants to be this and that, so you negate and neglect.
Isn't that how the system is tilted?
Yeah, when you say the system, somebody is Wale Soyinka, you may say that that's 1 in a million, but he has an exceptional personality of himself.
And it doesn't come from this generation, obviously.
Well, if there are other persons too within our confines here that have also looked at it, that it's not just about the big names you carry around. So I'm looking at it from that angle. Education, yes, we should readdress it. We should begin to work on those technical schools other than just looking at it, the university, and then just go on and on like that. We need to go into research. And where the government will also come in is to properly fund these projects. Because I believe education is underfunded in this country, most very, very.
We're going to come to funding
yes.
and talk about it extensively.
I think this research,
research and funding
of this research work, it's sacrosanct. It's something you cannot shy away from.
Let me come to Washington quickly. There have been calls, in some cases very clarion, that state of emergency should be declared in the education sector. What's your take?
Well, the issue of state of emergency in education, it reminds us of what divides us rather than what unites us as a people.
How's that?
Well, it is not a call that is glorious.
Okay.
Yeah. In as much as it gives advantage or some degree of advantage to those who come from the catchment area. But I tell you, it also has a way of discouraging the brightest of the minds, seeking or getting admission in any locality, whereas the Constitution guarantees you to stay in any part of Nigeria.
And go to school.
And go to school. No, just not limiting it to education, as it were. The Constitution guarantees you, as a Nigerian, to stay in any part of the country.
Okay.
Now, when laws that are inferior to the position of the Constitution is not being enacted contrary to the position of the Constitution, it runs a crisis. It creates crisis within the sector. What this will succeed in doing is denying the best of brains access to education in their area of residence.
That's if we were to declare state of emergency in the sector.
Talking about this issue of state of state of origin and
No, we're talking about state of emergency.
now, when you talk about state of emergency, I've said it before, the best time to have done that was yesterday. Let me tell you, let me remind our brother here. He was talking about learning through all of this, talking about the introductory technology.
Craft and all that.
Now, you see, these are ideas, beautiful ideas. That was why I told you the law is not the problem. Implementation is always the problem. And we abandon good things always in a hurry, in search of new ones, when we are not even, we have not even been able to show value for the money we invested in the old ones. In 1987, the 6334 system was brought to replace the structure that was on the ground before in education. That was what now brought in 3 years, 6 years in primary, 3 years in junior secondary, senior secondary 3 years, and the university 4 years, and as it were. Now, but look at it. With that system came this issue of introductory technology, which was to give relevance back, to reinvent the relevance of this technical education and all of that. But between that 1987 and 1990, all the good things that it came with were lost. Huge amounts, huge investment were done. Yes, we were in school then. We saw the secular saw. We saw the divider. We saw a lot in our technology world. We saw the T-squares, and they were teaching us how to use all of this. Our colleagues at that time had chosen a career. Some of them were able to make beds and chairs and all of that. It gave something to think of in the future.
Right.
It was so inspiring, you know. And in that sector, teachers were also engaged. You know, those who were trained in technology. Now, coming from the aspect of the technical colleges and all of that, they were also employed and engaged so that they can engage the bright brains and all of that. Now, those who wanted to be technical went through that, and those who wanted to do the academic work, as it were, you know, also went through the other way. Now, today, that huge investment were lost. Looting, embezzlement, stealing, and all of that. Today, if you go to those schools, they don't exist anymore. These children of today, who were supposed to have also benefited from that, they no longer see. Those who took interest in it and they abandoned the other side of it, and they were now to go with craft. Government led them through a dream, and when they got to the middle of the sea of that, they were abandoned. Today they are confused, and they were discouraged from learning the academic aspect of it, and they went to the technical, they were abandoned, and all of that. You see, governments don't function that way. That is the point. Now, when new events and new inventions and new declarations are made today, one who is a student of history, when you remember where you're coming from and what has happened abruptly to your colleagues who took to some of these things, then you will just believe that someday these ones will be lost. That was why I told you that with this somersault of these 4 years, 8 years tenure and all of that, it does not give you opportunity to concretize what you have started if they are good. Yes, if they are good, it is something to wish for. If they are also bad, it is something to reject. So that is why I said the earliest time to have done this emergency, if you declare emergency, it must also come with terms. If a government, a particular government is declaring emergency and the next government that will come does not believe in it, there's a problem. You see, we must not shift this blame. The reason for leadership is that we all work, you know, in a society, in a way that the society will function. Even for the sheep, they have leaders, and that is why they follow. For the ants, they have leaders, that is why they follow. When there is disruption in the circle of the leadership, it will cascade to the root of all of that.
Obviously, there has been a case of disruption here.
The first institution that must take blame when you are talking about sharing the blame for those in the society is the government. It is for this reason that government is set up to provide leadership. In other parts of the world, a leader who cannot do well in government will resign. That is the way it is. Because I say it all the time, when they engage you, whether elected or appointed, the reason why you are there, you are paid a salary. The reason why you receive it in government, and I am not in government, I don't receive it, is because we have given you our collective trust to say you can do this, go and lead us.
And you're supposed to bring value.
And you are not supposed to do it in education alone. You do it in health, you do it in economics, you do it in environment, you do it everywhere. So you must also be held liable. So when they hold you liable, it is not a sign of of disloyalty. It is what you bargain for. You understand? There's a social contract between those who contest, those who are appointed, to also work for those who contested and won. To take charge of the society, the environment, the country, the state, and lead it in the path of success. So when people notice that things are not going too well, you see, when they criticize you, I continue to say, those who criticize you are not your enemies, they are your best friends, whether in the opposition or whatever, within the party or in government, anywhere they come from. They are your best friends. They are the ones who want you to succeed. What you are supposed to do is to listen. You understand? Because I was paid salary to do a job as a commissioner.
Right. And
I owe the people, my generation, my future, that responsibility. I haven't collected that salary to do the job. And I tell you every time, who a thief is that person who collects salary, and at the end of the month, you cannot justify the salary that you collected. You are a thief.
He was making allusion to funding and research a while ago.
Now, let me tell you, in funding and research,
very critical elements.
You see, let me tell you, in education, when I see the votes, if this nation must move forward, let me tell you, we must invest in education.
So we're paying lip service as it stands right now?
Not necessarily lip service. You see, sometimes when we do things, it could be out of ignorance. Although ignorance is not an excuse in law. It could be out of ignorance, but good conscience, but out of ignorance. Or you consider the extent of the funds available, and in allocating, which of course you must do in allocating, you say, okay, we cannot vote everything to education. But the truth is that the future you seek to save with other sectors, you can't get it except you identify a sector which you put massive investment for you to get there. Take the risk, invest in education, follow it logically, and ensure that your investment will yield results. It will now begin to dovetail to other sectors. If you have weak educational sector, you will produce, it is logical that you will produce weak students who will also graduate in weak institutions and also provide weak leadership. To expect otherwise is to mean that you are twisting the time. And in twisting the time, you will not get the desired result. Now, the first thing is, what do I intend to achieve? What I intend to achieve is to move the nation, to move the state forward. Okay, do I agree with what I have met now? No, I do not agree. What do I do to make it better? I have thought that there are several vehicles I want to share in all these vehicles, the limited resources that we have. But I think education, if I take the risk to invest more in education, it will dovetail in the overriding interest will be that give it to education, and it will come around to produce good results in other sectors. Therefore, let us do that. Let me tell you, if we had good education, the mind will be educated, and when the mind is educated, it is easier to govern the people. If we have good education, the minds of these people that are already educated also would naturally tell them to either choose to be paid, hired as a civil servant and be paid, or look for other means to employ yourself and also employ others. If we have good education, the health sector, you will know how to take care of yourself. The investment in the health sector will drop, because if we really don't take care of ourselves as individuals, we don't know what to do to take care of ourselves health-wise. The truth is that if our hygiene condition is poor, no matter the investment you invest in health, it's a matter of time to be overstressed. And when it is overstressed, because the health level of the citizens are poor, the facilities of the medical sector will be overstressed. And when it's overstressed, it will require that you put more investment. No matter the investment you put, it will soon fizzle out because it does not yield results. The life expectancy ratio will drop and all of that. And once it drops, it affects the workforce. And when the workforce is affected, the economy is affected and all of that. So it's a chain reaction. With education, there are answers to all of this. So what we must do is to declare, like I have said, when you are declaring state of emergency in education, it is not sufficient.
So what
the terms of reference, we want to know. The level of investment on the side of government, we also want to know. The way you will monitor your investment so that it yields results, we want to know. The human elements which are the most critical elements when you are talking about progress and development, the human elements. Because they are not just like computer that you program 1 + 1 to get 2. The human beings, they have ability to question because they are rational beings. They can deploy that rationality for or against. Therefore, when you give them assignments, you must logically follow them. It is illogical to throw money. Money does not solve problems. It is the utilization of the money that solves the
But
problem.
it appears here we throw the money at those who are supposed to do it.
And that is where we get it wrong.
And then we don't follow through.
That is where we get it wrong. Money will not solve problems. The utilization of the money, the monitoring of those who are to use the money, that will determine what we get out of it. So the institution must necessarily agree, this is what we want. We want to declare, or we have declared, a state of emergency in education. This is what we want to achieve. But first, if you do not believe that your massive investment in education will necessarily bring about a situation that will solve the other problems, ancillary problems that we have in other sectors, you can't do it.
Let me come to Patrick quickly. You want to contribute to that? You want to contribute to what, in terms of funding?
Yes, like I...
Exactly. Because you actually opened that line of conversation.
Yes. You see, funding, at times I wonder, it's like you want so much, you keep from a sector, the educational sector now, we're expecting so much, and in return, you don't want to do the needful.
Right.
You know, I believe everything is about sacrifice and priority. I love the free food given to kids. It's a good one. It's commendable.
That's the feeding program, right?
The feeding program.
Right.
But I don't think it's more important than the investment in education itself, because
beyond the food.
Beyond the food. Because tomorrow, if you give me fish and you fail to teach me how to fish, I will finish that fish you've given to me. I will keep coming again and again. That's the problem with the beggars on the streets. You give them today, tomorrow they are there begging again. They keep begging and begging, and you cannot continue to fund liabilities. So that's why we need to invest in education. Now, that in itself, it's wrong to tell a child, you go to school and be eating. To me, it's wrong. I don't see, I know what are we doing? They give them free food in school. Just go, government will be feeding you. That child will grow to an adult tomorrow, expecting government to come and marry a wife for him and take care of his children. I think it's a wrong program. I remember what they did those days when they were trying to speak during the communist revolution at those early time, trying to push the minds of the people, make them think away from the gospel. They were saying, pray to your Father in heaven to pray. I mean, in communist blogs now, they were saying that, our Father who art in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. And I say, open your eye, where's the daily bread? No daily bread. Then I say, pray to Joseph Stanley, that Joseph Stanley provide us bread. And then you see the people say, cry out, Joseph Stanley, give us bread. And the soldiers will be throwing bread at the kids, and they will be picking it. They now grew up to believe that all they ever needed is Joseph Stanley. So it's in the same way. Don't tell the kids that they are going to be fed by government. Government is feeding us, government pay our school, government. So that in itself. So we should do the needful by investing more in education and see how we can cushion the folks, the family, and see how we can give scholarship if need be. And see, but educational funding is too low. Imagine what they are using to feed the kids is even more than what is invested in education. It doesn't add up.
And that doesn't cover the cost of research, obviously.
It doesn't cover it. So we need to leave other things and really look at the money for running governments and governance and, you know, those in offices. I believe it should be slashed. I believe. Maybe you say, well, you are not there, that's why you are talking. Yes, I know. But what I'm saying is the truth. We are wasting so much fund in some other things that are not supposed to.
Let's look at
we are living education.
Let's look at some issues in the heart of this discussion right now. We probably will not be fair to compare our system of education in this country with what obtains in places like England, the US, Germany, or other civilized or industrialized nations.
Yes.
But let's go to Asia. Let's pick a country like Singapore, for instance, where we are told that the goal for primary education in that country is such a way that when your child leaves primary school, they fall in love with the country. In other words, the rationale behind having primary education in place is to teach children patriotism. Do we have such goals, specific goals for education in this country, where you say, for instance, when someone completes the secondary education cycle, there's something they must have accomplished? Do we have that beyond just having WAEC results or NECO results?
That's what they have achieved. It's just WAEC results.
So that's the goal.
That's the goal. But it's wrong. Like I really, you see, it's not what you fake. It's not what you manipulate to be.
Right.
You know, it's what it should be. Patriotism, it's what it's sacrosanct, it's fundamental to the raising of the children. You know, I saw during the time of the 4 that were killed in Baghdad, the 4 diplomats that were killed, and this American soldier trying to use his, you know, to put out the fire that was being ignited on the American flag. You see, patriotism. You see, they love their country not because of their president. You see, we love the kind of structure we have. We love our state. Maybe I'm a friend to the governor. I love the governor is my uncle, so I will love the government. I will protect the government. If it's my uncle and he is not doing well, no, I will not criticize him. It's my uncle. No. If I really, patriotism, it's about the state. The state own all of us. Not
I asked that question to,
Yes.
to use it as a point to kickstart the conversation about whether our education system teaches values beyond certificates issuance.
Ordinarily, at the early time, it was.
So things have changed
It
now.
has changed because of the high rising challenges and the measures that have been, you know, the hardship and all whatnot. But that in itself should not be. But people give that as their reasons. You know, what is it? We're in a country we cannot live, we cannot that, we cannot this. But the problem is, you are also part and parcel of the said problem that is created.
Right.
Why have I changed? I saw a very beautiful woman driving the other day. I was driving behind her, and she was eating, and her kids were in the car. You are picking your kids from school, and she threw it on the road. I was wondering, this is a woman, a responsible woman, ordinarily, but look at what she's doing. And I could see the little baby at the back too, whining down and throwing something on the road. So who is going to pick it? Obaseki should go and clear it off the road. And tomorrow drainage is blocked and we are blaming government. So this is it. It's a collective thing, and education at that level, patriotism, like I said, is something that must be entrenched in our system. With what we drive home, we are not being communicated like that anymore. How many persons can still sing the national anthem? How many? I remember when we were in the Polytechnic those days, we were taught to write. It's part of your citizenship education. Course, citizenship course. You have to write the national anthem, the standards of the national anthem. Some people couldn't write, and they will leave that question, which was about the cheapest. Just the right, arise, O compatriot, Nigeria's call obey to serve. You know, somebody could not write that, and we just leave it and go and be answering something else. So that has become. So we should get it right by doing the needful. Let them know their country. Your country is the best country. I could believe Nigeria is still the best country in the world, regardless of what is happening. I don't pride myself with any other country. I don't want to be a national of any country, no matter the countries I've visited. I just visit them and come back, and this is my country. I love my state. I love my home. I love my people. I love to be free. I'm freer in Nigeria than anywhere in the world. I'm freer in Nigeria.
Why you are enjoying that? Let
Yes.
me come to Washington quickly, because you have been a commissioner, so you've seen some of these issues firsthand. There's more than ever before emphasis and re-emphasis on the need to review very urgently our curriculum in this country, because they say that it doesn't measure up anymore. Times have changed, a lot of things have evolved, and if we must create jobs, if we must be able to tweak our situation for the better, we must go back, revisit our curriculum, and adjust it in such a way that it can be in consonance with the times that we're living. Do you think that's one of the many ways we can resolve this problem?
Well, I will come to that.
Yes.
But at the risk of attempting to draw back the hand of the clock, let me add to what my brother said in his own views with regards to the homegrown food program and all of that. That is not the problem. That they are feeding the children is not the problem. And it's also correct that the children will grow up to start looking at the government to say, you must feed us. The content of that program is not to make the children lazy. The content of that program is, it is believed that very many children don't even eat to school.
Okay.
And thank God you always make reference to the fact that I've been there. Yes, as commissioner, and one who was also always in schools, a field commissioner, I have seen that very many of our children, and I believe it is still like that today, because there was, as you know, magic done between then and now. Yeah. I have seen that very many of them never ate breakfast before going to school.
And that's not an ideal situation.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Now, the brain, the food that the brain eats comes through the mouth. And the brain is the greatest machine in the body. Once you do not feed the brain, and you subject the child to sit in one place and listen to a teacher who perhaps will just come there to read the right art. You see, I told you that the children are victims of poor parental upbringing. I tell you, these children, they go through, very many of them, they go through this. This is information from my dear brother here. I saw some of them when I went for inspection sometimes. You see students fainting, little children. It was always a bad day for me. And when you get close to them, some of them, they even run temperature. You want to help them to take them to the nearest sick bay, not the one within the school anyway. But what you learn is that, of course, have you eaten? The child will say no. What about your mother? Say, well, I live with my grandparent, my grandmother. My mother just left, didn't, and all of that. Or some will say, my mother went to the market. She didn't give us food before she left. Oh my God. Then you will first have to ensure that the child eats before taking care of the medical bills and all of that. We did very many of that. Now, it is still like that today. When you as an adult, you don't even eat in the morning, you will not be stable. These children will not go home until 2. Imagine a child who walks from a very long distance to school without food in his or her stomach. You want the child to concentrate and take something back home. And that child will trek under the hot sun, or when it rains, under that harsh condition, back home. And because the parents also hurriedly left the home, there is no guarantee that when they get home, there will be food waiting for them to eat. And some of them, when they get home, they take their pure water, they will go and sell. It is in the process of selling that pure water with no food in the stomach. Maybe the first sachet or the first 2 ones that they sell, they want to use it to buy akara or buy buns or buy something. I mean, you see, very many people don't know what we are going through in this country. So when you talk about that program for the children, it is to help them, to give them some level of, food, such that they can get some, some concentration when they're in the classroom.
So that program is timely.
But, the program is very timely, but it does not end there. It was also to help the farmers to have a first-hand business line for supplying of their food and all of that, to encourage them, so that when there's a ready market, it encourages them on the need to go back, to go to farming and this homegrown food, farming and all this, because there is a consumption line along the way. So it's economic prosperity to the farmers. But again, what about the parents? Some of them, I also discovered, this is not thesis to impress one teacher, one of my supervisor. This is what a feed, what I saw by myself. Some of them, they are not victim, they don't do this because the parents are poor. No. The reason also for this, for very many of them, is that, yes, the parents, some of them are above average. They are just too lackadaisical with taking care of these children.
That's the parents.
Oh, I'm telling you, not because they don't have food or they couldn't provide. For some of them, I understand, there is no food. But I wonder, you see, our parents when we were growing up, the reason why you see they sing Sweet Mother, I tell people all the time, the song Sweet Mother, it is earned. It is earned. When the mother, no mother worthy of being called that name will go to sleep or go out when you have not guaranteed that there's food in the stomach of your children. Where are those virtues in our parents of today, very many parents of today? Our parents of today, they are already in the fast lane. They are forgotten that the reason why they go to look for this money is to have a stable family. What will be the value of this money? What value will it add when the children you are supposed to use it to take care of, they are worthless? Then that is what the Bible will say, your silver and gold perisheth with you, and all of that. So for me, these children, I continue to be on the side of the children because I have seen, I witnessed it. No one told me that these children are victims of poor parenting. If you listen to all that I said and I did when I was in Ministry of Education, because of what I saw, Children, parents, some of these parents were my targets. I had to personally follow some children home. I saw that some of them were comfortable, others were not, but their parents were not just concerned about what happens to these children. So government has come to take in. It's okay, let's do the best we can. You understand? But for the parents, we must also find out, for very many of them who do not have jobs, we must find a way, because very many of them will also want to give, but they don't have. You understand? And you can't give what you don't have. It's always a painful day for the parents too. But we, as government, while providing food for the children, we must also find ways and means of also providing for the parents by creating jobs and all of that. Now, what question did you ask?
They were actually talking about, he was talking about the fact that this the food issue is not timely, but I actually wanted you to react to the fact that most persons have placed emphasis on the need to revisit our curriculum, that could be one of the many ways we can solve the issues in the education sector.
My opening remarks,
yes,
in trying to lay a proper foundation for this discourse, I told you that I am not afraid of what is available, readily available as it is today, in terms of programs, policies, and laws. I am not afraid. For any country, any society to work on the path of advancement, you must necessarily review yourself first as an individual. Training and retraining, programming and reprogramming is part of the instruments that is needed, to advance to the next level. So also our curriculum. You see, what is happening to our laws is also what is happening to our curriculum in education. If you see that our economy as it is today in Nigeria, not just in the education sector alone, everything that borders on laws, human relations, economics, and all of that, technological advancement, if it will be guaranteed, it must dwell, so to speak, on declaring a state of emergency in the laws, that regulate the activities. The reason for the law is to regulate activities, create set rules for the regulation of activities within any.
So in 30 seconds, what are you telling us essentially?
In education, I am not surprised that people are clamoring, or government is asking that there should be a review of the curriculum. This curriculum, we don't live in we are not an isolated people. We must do it in a way to reflect the modern ways and means of living, in line with other international clients and all of that. So we are not secluded, we are not separated. We must continue to do things that will put us in a way that suggests that we are working, we know what is happening around the globe. And what is happening around the globe today in areas of economy, areas of technology, and all of that, we suggest that we rejig our syllabuses.
And we'll do that very soon. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So let me give you 30 seconds to wrap it up for us.
We want to quickly react to what I said earlier.
In 30 seconds.
Yes. I was not against the kids being fed.
Okay.
I was only against the way and manner it was being conducted. Now, I honestly believe, I also have labored, I've been a child, I have hawked on the streets of Benin, and we were not trained at home to eat outside. I believe the parents, if governments really have them at heart, we can encourage the parents and set monitor in place to run that and let that get through. And again, if you look at what the Minister of Labor said, in as much as we said, it was one side we have addressed, the other side is that it's the sole responsibility of the government to inspire the people. Ordinarily, it's not the way he's saying that education that
cannot provide jobs
is useless.
But I think he was saying that essentially to challenge us to take a second look at what we are doing and how we can improve on it.
We must be mindful of the kind of
gentlemen, I think that's where we are going to have to leave this discussion this morning. Thank you so much for coming. I've been talking with Barrister Washington Osifo, former Commissioner for Education. Edo State, thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks
we appreciate the time. And of course,
He's a learned colleague over there, Barrister Patrick Awosagi. Also, thank you for your time on the program. We appreciate it. And that's a wrap on this discussion. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back to close the program this morning. Stay with us.